Good evening to parents, guardians and students who are welcome to Year 11 Study Skill. And I'm going to do some introduction, and I will be speaking to you later on during the week. And I will be speaking to you on later during the day. I do know it's like the pressure of young kids when we have to speak out to prospective Year 6. So my name is Miss Boyd. I'm assistant head teacher. I'm head of upper school and senior school. So upper school is just Year 11s only, and senior schools Year 12 and 13. So I will see some of the Year 11s move on to sixth form, those who choose to be here. I'm going to do some introduction. To my left is Mr. Samuel, who's Deputy Head of Upper School. To my right, and I know there's no introduction, just Miss Harrison there, just on a laptop, because she's going to be answering questions online. Again, Mr. Hebert, which you know very well, and Mr. Willis, who's also Head of Year 11. We do have Miss Keith Jopp, who's on maternity leave, who's also Head of Year 11, and she won't be back until April. So today's about us explaining what Year 11s did today on their study school day. We're going to have an external person from Learning Performance to explain the day Year 11 had today. And without due course, I'm going to also introduce Mr. S. Beckles, who's Learning Performance. He's going to actually present to you what happened with Year 11 today. So just in case we are all aware, they've had a very difficult period, the current Year 11, and quite a lot of the students all year group. So when they were in Year 9, it's when we had the pandemic. And so they've been through Year 9, through Year 10. So what we decided to come back is trying to support and help them in preparing for study skills. If some parents are not aware, the government are saying the current Year 11 and the current Year 13, they should sit some kind of exam. Now, the reason why, especially the current Year 13 do not have GCSE results. They did got predicted grades. University are conscious that if that particular year group do come to university, they didn't have GCSE results, they don't have A-level results, it's going to be quite difficult. So those students who went to university without A-level results, some of the universities saying the student didn't manage or didn't cope. So there is some kind of idea that Year 11 and Year 13 will sit some kind of exam. By end of September, schools will get information about subjects that they're going to sit. For example, I teach science. They will let us know topics that they're going to ask the student to sit in June. So with all due respect, I'm going to pass you on to Miss Willis, and is going to go through the list of compulsory days with the Year 11s.
Okay, good evening, everybody. As Miss Boyd said, my name is Mr. Willis. I am new to the Year 11 team this year. However, this is my 6th year at Kingsdale, and previously last year I was in charge of the Year 11s that have just got their GCSEs. So it's just to add a little bit more experience to the team. Mr. Hebert, I think this is around about his 5th or 6th Year 11 cohort. Miss Harrison, around about 2 or 3, and I dread to think how many Miss Boyd and Mr. Samuels have went through. Okay, but we won't go through that. So today is obviously, once we get the external speaker going, it's just about to show you some techniques, how you can advise, how you can support your child at home through obviously this difficult time. But some key dates, and then I don't know if you want to take your phone out and take a picture of these, but these are crucial. Okay, these are the sixth form open evenings if your child would like to attend Kingsdale Foundation School. Okay, and it's an opportunity for them to come in, to go and explore the sixth form building themselves, because in theory, they don't have permission to go over there at the moment. It's a separate building. They get to speak to the A-level teachers who teach them, the heads of learning for Year 12 and 13, and a little bit more detail with Miss Boyd. Okay, so it's a crucial date to put in your diary. Now, my section is going to just be talking about compulsory revision days on a Saturday as well as during half term. Now, I'm sure when you've been listening to the news, you've heard the term catch-up curriculum and lots of things like that. So we are doing stuff in school, but we're going to just spend a couple of minutes looking at the stuff that we're going to do outside of school hours. And this was really, really successful last year. It was very clear that those students who were able to attend the compulsory revision, those were the ones that achieved top grades at the end of Year 11. Okay, there's no denying that. Okay, so it's just something to bear in mind. So the first 3 days of October half term, which is the 25th, the 26th and the 27th of October of this year, we will be doing 3 days compulsory revision on school site. Now, I know some people may have booked holidays, and I don't blame you. Okay, some people might not be able to come to school because of medical conditions. They will all be streamed live and they will all be recorded. Okay, but if your child is able to come into school, it is a lot better having face-to-face contact with the teacher so they can have that dialogue, okay, rather than sitting at home and, you know, struggling a little bit on the computer. Each day will be between start at 9 a.m. and finish at 3 p.m. They will do 5 subjects of English, Maths, Science, Humanities and Languages with a 1-hour break for lunch. And one of the main reasons, or the 2 main reasons, it's targeted intervention and it's exam preparation. Okay, so your child will be placed into a class with a member of staff and other students, and they will have targeted intervention. So some students might need a little bit of work on one particular area and another student might need it somewhere else, and the teacher will be able to target your child and what they think is best for that child. Okay, and then obviously the exam preparation, especially this one, because they are going to be sitting exams on the first 2 weeks back after half term, it will give them the opportunity to see what topics are going to be on the exams, how to answer long and short questions, looking at structure and everything else. And this is typically how your child's day will look, okay, on one of those compulsory days. So you can see science, maths with break, language, humanities and English should be on there as well, okay? And it's around about 55 minutes. They'll get a few minutes to run to the toilet, get a drink, and then they will start again, okay? And then one that is starting immediately as of Saturday this week is Saturday school. So again, it's going to be on site, but all lessons will be recorded and uploaded to Teams. So if your child isn't able to attend for whatever reason, there's an opportunity for them to review that at a later date. It will only focus on English and Maths in the morning from 10 till 12. We'll have 1 hour each. Or if your child is, you know, struggling more in English or more Maths, they do have the option to remain in that session for the full 2 hours. It is up to them, and a bit of dialogue with the teacher will be appropriate. And then in the afternoon, there will be options running, okay, but that will be at an ad hoc sort of an agreement with the classroom teacher and other subjects, and it is up to the classroom teacher and the student to have that you know, that communication of when it is running, as it may not run every week. One of the big things to bear in mind is the topics will be shared before a Saturday. So for example, if your child is planning to attend this Saturday, the English and Maths department either tomorrow or Friday will let the students know what topics or what information they will be going through on that Saturday. It may be that your child doesn't need any particular support or intervention on that topic, so they may not need to attend, or they want to dedicate more time to the English section or the Maths, but everything will be shared so they're not arriving blind, okay? And just a little thing, and it can cause, you know, attendance issues with students. They are allowed to wear their own clothes, providing school does not have an open day. If the school is having an open morning for year 6 parents, they must arrive in full uniform, okay? We can't have them obviously walking around in tracksuit bottoms, hoodies, etc. We do need to make them look respectable. And then finally, the last thing what I will say is from what we learned last year, like I've said, and the feedback that we got from the year 12s now who were in this position last year, they were very grateful for this opportunity. Okay, they understood that the teachers went out their way to put on this additional sessions. Those who attended did very well. Those who didn't attend or didn't attend regular, their comments after we did an audit, after their year 11 time was up, is they said that they wish they had engaged in this earlier. Okay, so it is crucial that we do our best as a school, as a parent, as a community, as a team to encourage our child, our students to attend these. Okay, it is vitally important that we do that. Okay, and that is it from me.
Right, so I just want to make a few comments what Mr. Willis said about these compulsory days. We do know, I know some people has booked a holiday. I have said it's fine, but I think we've been running it for 3 years, 2 years before the lockdown. And the reason why it actually started was actually the students. I've been in many years at Kingsale School. It was actually a bunch of students that came and say, you know what, Miss Boyd, I think we should do a compulsory day. So this is how the compulsory day started. And some of the students said, I'm going to put my hands up. I'm pretty lazy at home. Sometimes my parents at work, and it's at work. I'm revising. I know I'm revising. And it was the boys actually that came and said that to me and said, you know what, miss, sometimes I'm playing, my friends would send me Snapchat, I'm on the phone focusing, and I actually don't focus. And sometimes I don't tell my parents the truth. They come in my room, they say, am I studying? I say yes, but basically I'm switching from my computer game and back. And the reason they said to me, miss, if you say so, the kids would just do what you ask them to do. So I wanted to let the parents just know. So it actually started before we started the pandemic. And when I started it, staff were saying, well, they're not going to come in their uniform. And the reason I decided to do the uniform, I mean, I'm the old staff. So when I say the old staff, I won't say my age, but I'm in my 50s. And I remember when I was at school, I didn't have the Nike Air and the Adidas and all the top clothes and all these expensive clothes. What I noticed when the kids come to revision to wear their own clothes, sometimes it's always, what have we all got? Who's got the best outfit? We were not focused on that. So I wanted them just to come to school in their uniform. So no one has to focus who's got what. So the reason we started that, it was those reasons. So they come into compulsory days with their uniform. So there's only 3 days of the 2 weeks of half term that's compulsory. They wear their uniform, and I'm not going to be hassling about trainers. If they came, they haven't got the right trainers on the compulsory day, it's fine. So that's the whole idea how the compulsory day actually started here. And also some of us, we have to be aware, some of the students got younger brothers and sisters. It's not always easy to study at home. Some of the students say we have cover lessons and we don't always learn well in our cover lesson. We miss some subjects. So I started those compulsory days for those reasons. Now, during those compulsory days, the students get a timetable. So it's not like they just come and just go wandering around. What is good is only year 11 on school site. There's no other year group on school site. So they're all getting a timetable. On the timetable, they go to their normal maths, science and English, and they also do a humanity and languages. So for that Monday, they'll have maths, science, English, and humanity, which is history or geography, and they'll have languages. If they don't have history or geography or don't do a language, they will do either extra maths and English. So that will run for 3 days. The remaining days, the students have the opportunity, I've got to remember to stand across, because the students will have the opportunity to actually go to other subjects that they want to, so textile, music, and they can wear their own clothes, because not everyone does textile, not everyone does music. So that was the reason behind those compulsory days. It actually showed in the last couple of years, it actually worked really well. And sometimes these kids here really are honest. So they might say to you as parents, oh, we're working. They're not always working. So that's the reason behind the compulsory days. And we also know some students study better at home. I've got 2 children, son and a daughter. Won't say anything about my son, a bit of a nightmare. My daughter always did what she does, focus and revising. So that's the reason behind we did those revision. Okay, so just want to inform the parents on the reason why those compulsory days. Okay, so I'm going to just pass you back to Mr. Hebert.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. So my little bit is just basically talking to you about the trying to keep the connection between us and parents going, and what we're going to be sending out to you over the next few days, or what we've actually, I mean, we've already sent you a calendar of events, which is all those key dates that I saw you whipping your phones out and snapping earlier on. They're all on there in terms of, I wonder if this has got a little pointer. There we go. At home you won't be able to see this, but down here we've got, there's the Wednesday 20th, the sixth form open day, sixth form open evening, Wednesday 29th. So all those dates are on there right the way through to year up to prom. This is the one, where is it? Friday the 24th. That's the one that we're focused on at the moment. Year 11 photographs, just making sure they're in full school uniform, etc., 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 because those are the photos that will eventually end up in the yearbook. So make sure your hair's done for that day. So we'll send that out there. It has the exam things on, the exam week, is up there just in November. Back to school. School starts at 8:40, and Monday the 8th to Friday the 12th is Year 11 exam week. The thing that's going to be coming out in the next couple of days, and I was desperate to try and get it ready for this evening. I'm just missing one or two subjects, but we're going to be giving you a list of every single subject with what is going to be on the exam in November. Okay, so I've just taken a little snapshot here. It's about 4 or 5 pages long, but I've just taken a little snapshot here of like English language, English literature, French. It gives you what the exam board is. That seems to be the most regularly asked question of parents. You want to know what revision guide to buy, you need to know which exam board. So we put down the left-hand side, the exam board. Then there are the various topics for what's going to be studied. So I can see here that the English exam will be focusing on 19th century fiction. There'll be an extract with comprehension, analysis of language and structure, and evaluation. And there's going to be a little bit of imaginative writing in section B. That's the language paper. And the literature paper, they're going to be focusing on Inspector Calls. And I think there's also a bit about Macbeth, which has been coming to me late, and I haven't put it on there after I've made this PowerPoint. But yeah, so it tells you everything you're going to do. And then on the right-hand side, because we'll be sending this out to you as a sort of PDF, all the clickable links that you can do and your sons and daughters can do, they can click on those particular things to go to the relevant websites that they're doing. So this is essentially what they will be learning for the next 6 weeks. Then they'll have an exam on it so that you can get a little sort of, you can pre-start what are you going to be, what are the kids going to be learning. One of the things they talked about today was about getting ready for revision, and you'll hear later on from the speaker all about that. But we want to make sure that they know exactly what's going to come up when they go into the exam hall, and so they're going to be as fully prepared as they can. As we go to the next set of exams, the topic list becomes a little bit wider. And we go to the final exams, it's pretty much everything. But the idea is gradually sort of drip, 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 get them confident about doing exams, get them confident about achieving, and then we widen the topic lists. And once they've got their revision thing under belt, once they've revised this lot, when it comes to the next exam, and it'll be this lot plus some other stuff, to revise this lot should be easier for them. So that's my little bit. That will be going out to you. I think I was waiting for, one subject, and I have a feeling that I saw an email from them but didn't read it. So I think I've got that now. So hopefully that'll be going out to you in the next day or two. I assume Mrs. Harrison. I'm going to introduce Mrs. Harrison. You don't.
Hello to those at home and those in the room. I am going to talk to you what we've heard so far, and it is needed, it is necessary, and it is what we deliver to the students in assemblies as well, is, that this is quite a year for them. They've come off the back of something nobody could have predicted, and they've come into Year 11 far more nervous, far more kind of worried and anxious than any Year 11s have before. What we've explained is all of the kind of academic provision that we're putting in place, all of the support, all of the revision, all of the Saturday schools, and the compulsory kind of interventions at half term and in holidays. We've talked about the exams and how often we're going to assess them and how we're going to support them. But from a more kind of, I get the touchy-feely role, from a more kind of pastoral point of view, what we all tried to put across to them in assembly was that the worrying about how this year is going to go should very much be our job. We need them to focus on their classwork. We need them to focus in their lessons. But in terms of the worrying, yeah, they're going to worry a bit. But the big worrying, the bigger picture, leave that to us. We will do that for them. We are, as a year group team, already kind of absolutely all over the data that they've got, and these exams will feed into that as well. We have a very, very clear picture of where they are in their different subjects, where they need support, where they're actually excelling, and lots of them are. And that is one thing, they need to take on board, that there are lots of them, who have worked really, really hard under lockdown in really difficult circumstances. And lots of them have still made really good progress. So we're identifying all of those areas, and we are planning for individual students, the ones that we can see are the most in need, or in particular subjects where students are significantly behind. We are going to target revision programs for them. It's not just going to be a one-size-fits-all. We're not going to say every single business studies student has to go to the business studies catch up, and every computer science student needs to go to the computer science catch up. We're going to help them make those choices. You know, if you're doing brilliantly in business studies, go to the geography one instead that runs at the same time. So it is about supporting them in those decisions and, you know, publishing the reports to you and making that data available for you on Go for Schools will help you support them in that as well. We don't want them flogging themselves to death. They need to breathe. They need a bit of rest. They need to, you know, focus on the areas that are important and kind of relax a little bit in some areas. In school, there is lots of help available. First port of call for yourselves and the students will be, you know, we've got form tutors, but anything you want to pass to us as the heads of learning, absolutely fine. We are here. We've expanded the team. We have Mr. Willis, who is a genuinely fantastic addition to the team. When Miss Keith Jopp is back, she is also amazing. There will be 4 of us, so plenty of us to answer your questions. You know, you're going to be as worried as the students are. Almost say kids, students are. So we will support you as much as you need as well. In school, even if your son or daughter has never accessed them before, we do have the school mentors, and they are there. They are not teaching staff. Their job is solely to mentor the students and make sure that they are receiving, you know, the emotional support that they need. We have a lot, you know, the anxiety levels are through the roof, and we're doing everything we can to combat it. We have fully trained school counsellors in the school as well. If you're concerned that your son or daughter is really struggling, you know, beyond a chat with the head of learning or some support from the mentor, please let us know, because sometimes they won't. So you know your children better than we do. If you're concerned about them, then please get in touch and we can make those referrals. What we need from our students is hard work. We don't want to destroy them, but they are, you know, we know this year they're going to have to work hard. We want to make sure that they are as supported as they can be in doing that. But I can't stand here and say, oh, it's going to be easy. It'll be a breeze. They are going to need to work hard. And what we also need is support. We're going to need your support as parents. So to those of you in the room and those of you at home, if we identify kind of areas that we need to work on with your son or daughter, whether it's academic, whether it's, you know, pastoral, whether we think they're a bit anxious, whether they're not, you know, behaving in the way they should, usually as a side effect of feeling anxious, we need your support. We need you on board as well. So that, you know, if we contact you, there is an open dialogue between us and we're just doing the best we can for all of them. That's all we want. We want the best we can for them at the end of all of this. Okay. I'm going to hand you momentarily back to Miss Boyd while I go and check the technicals.
Okay, thanks. You got the clicker? Okay. I'm just going to do, sorry, it's not on mute, thanks. So, right, just going to go right back to the beginning. Right, so going to go right back to here. GCSE and A-level, I think, is the most stressful part of a child's life and a parent's life. So I know I have only been teaching, I don't teach any lower school, and I haven't taught a lower school child for about 10 years of my teaching career. So all I tend to teach is year 11s and year 12 and year 13. So I know the student say Ms. Boyd is really strict, but honestly, in year 11 and 12 and 13, where you see the opposite of me. For us to make sure the students do well, we both need to work together as a team. And that means when someone comes home, your son and daughter comes home, and you say one thing, we say another thing, we're not going to achieve the same goals. I know the same thing I have when I'm at home with my husband and my son wants to get away with a bit of work and he goes, oh, Dad, and Dad says, oh, it's okay. Then I say something else. It just doesn't work. So we together as a team do need to work together so the students achieve. My main and first priority is the well-being of the students first. I know the times I've been here, you get both. You get teachers that are really pushing, you get parents that are really pushing. So we need to think about the students' well-being. If we think about the students' well-being, they will do well, they will succeed. Now I've got 3 year 11 class, and as a senior teacher, I tend to teach, I'm not supposed to teach a lot, but I do teach a lot. I've got 3 year 11 class and I've got year 12 and year 13 A-level class. And I know the first thing I say to my students is, we can all do it. We might not all get a 9, but we can all pass the GCSE. So if you feel confident, feel that the students can do well, they will also feel the same. So when we talk, the first thing I say, where does it start from? Well, it starts from home. So what do I mean by that? So, managing at home. Now, what I mean by that, so it all starts from home before it comes into school. First of all, I know sometimes we all have children and sometimes they're sitting in their bedroom doing their homework, sitting in the bed, they're saying they're doing their homework. Sitting in your bed doing homework is not the appropriate way to do the homework. So I think they've been sort of told best place to do it is sitting on a table, on a lit table, actually sitting down, trying to focus and doing your homework rather than sitting on a bed. Because sometimes you get very comfortable in your bed and you sort of fall asleep or you're not taking anything in. The only time a student should be in their bedroom or doing work or is when they're reading. Because if you're reading an English book and everything else, that's fine. So this is something we've been explaining, we're going to be talking to Year 11s about. A best place is to do it on a desk. It can be in your bedroom on a desk. It can be in the kitchen. But trying to get them into the habit of not sitting in their bedroom, doing their homework, it's best to sit on the table. Another way is getting them sorted at home, is getting them organised. Now, organised means they're not packing their bags in the morning coming to school. They're packing their bags the night before. Yeah, and another way of doing, we're saying to the students, because they've all come back, they've probably lost the routine of school. Within a couple of days, they've lost their timetable. Oh, sir, I don't know what my lesson is. I lost my timetable. So what we're trying to encourage them to do is to get a second copy of their timetable, to put it up on the wall at home, anywhere around the house, to try and get in a habit of packing their bags the night before. So what lesson do I have before? Well, I have this before, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to pack my bag the night before. Yeah, pack their equipment the night before. So they need to get into that routine because they're going to come to an exam hall and officially we're not supposed to give equipments out. So if they haven't got their equipment, especially let's say maths GCSE, that might be their GCSE sort of down the drain. Some of those who goes to university wants to pursue and go to university, it's really different. They can't call mum and dad, oh, I haven't got a pen, or can I borrow a pen? It doesn't work that way. Yeah, I went to Imperial and UCR to do my science degree. You haven't got equipment, you're making noise, you're out through the door. So we want to start getting into that routine to prepare for the real world. So second bit is managing your time. Adults find it difficult, young children find it difficult. So we want to make sure we try and get these Year 11s because they've had a hard time, almost since being in full-time schools and beginning of Year 9. They have to manage their time because we are now in September. Your first GCSE exam is in May. May comes really quick. They all say, oh, I've got time to revise, or I've got time to revise. What the students don't remember, your GCSE is not just what you've done in Year 11, it's everything you've done in the 2 years. At Kingsdale School, we actually start GCSE in Year 9, so it's actually everything you've done in the last 3 years. So the exam's going to test you, not just what you did in Year 11, what you did in Year 10. So they need to get inside some kind of routine with their work. So for example, there's some students who I know do a lot of activities. They've got football, netball, horse riding, ballet, or etc. Now I know my son, he loves his football, he used to play for football, and I had to work out the balance between the two. If you're going to be a footballer, I'll say give up school because I'm going to be a rich mother. But I know he ain't going to be a footballer. And I want to keep him happy and also keep myself happy. So we had to have some negotiation in the house. I'm happy to go football in this particular time. I'm going to see when your other revision. In return, you need to do this. And I try to make him understand, look, we're not all going to be footballer because a lot of the young kids wants to do that. We're not all going to make it. If you are going to be a footballer, I would say I'll be the first mother to say to you, you don't even need a degree because they're going to earn more money than we are ever going to earn in our life. But not all of us can make it as a footballer or etc. So you have to get your son and daughter in some kind of routine. They'll think that, my God, May's round the corner. May is far away. It is not. The GCSE will come and it is quite stressful. And I would say that because I've been here for years. And you might have heard gossip, and some parents that I know very well, because they've got brothers and sisters, you do see these boys at your house during GCSE morning. And the reason why, they don't want to come in to sit the exam. So I tend to go to the house, and all the time, they've always actually turned up, and there's a bit of tears, a bit of crying. So it is actually really stressful. And a lot of the reasons students are stressed, they think they don't know it. Or they say to me, oh my God, I had this lesson, that lesson, I didn't learn anything. So I've said to the year 11s, you need to be following me. If teachers are not teaching you, that's what I want to know. I don't want to know this person took my pen. I want to know all the cover lessons you have, all the teachers are not teaching you, and all the teachers are not setting you homework, because it starts from there. So we need to make sure that they start from day one. So again, as a school and at home, they do need to make some kind of program at home where the students need to understand they can't just leave everything to the last minute. Okay, so what that means, they get set homework. Sometimes they may get set today, like I know I set my year 11 science homework today. I expect them, and I said to them, they need to complete it today. It might be due on Monday. They mustn't get in a habit of, oh, I'll leave it to Sunday, because it's still fresh in their mind. So if you get set homework, we want to get the students in the routine. Do your homework straight away. Don't leave it the last minute. Those who choose to go to further education, you're going to get assignment. It's a lot of reading. You might ask to get assignment the next day. So we want to start tackling the homework. Sometimes the students might struggle. If they struggle the homework, I would say it has to come back to the school, because maybe it wasn't explained properly or didn't understand. If that's the case, they have been told you must spend this year opportunity going back to your subject teachers, asking for more help and more support. So again, we're trying to get the students to start doing homework the day it's given. After that, they need to make some kind of program. So we've got Monday to Sunday, Saturday, let's say they might go, I don't know, some activities they do out of school, and maybe on a Wednesday they do activities out of school. The rest of the day, you say, right, I'm going to do history homework today. After that, I'm going to practice my maths. I don't like maths, but I'm going to have to practice my maths. So they are doing some revision from beginning. So we want to get them into that kind of routine. Preparing for tests and organising themselves. What we've tried to do, as you saw, Mr. Willis and Mr. Hibbert talked about the list of topics. We've asked all departments to give us a list of topics that's going to be in their exam for the first mock they're going to have just in October. So that way, what we've decided, and I've said to the staff, just don't email the students on their own. You need to make sure the parents are aware. I do know, because being a parent yourself, they don't always tell you or show you what's going on. So what we've tried to do is to get the students prepared in advance. So by end of this week, it should be hopefully, or Monday, they'll be given a booklet. It'll be emailed to them. On that booklet, it has all their subjects. It has all the topics they're going to be asked for exam in October for their mock. They want to start preparing and revising. I've asked the department to put resources, websites, so the students can do further revision. So all that should be on them, so the students can start preparing. In September, hopefully, end of September, the government has said schools should get lists of exact topics that's going to be tested for their GCSE. As soon as any school gets it, or as soon as we get it, what we are going to do is put the pack together and send it to the parents. So on that paper, it will have what exam board they're doing, because some of you parents are maybe you're good at teaching yourself, so it will have that science. We do AQA exam. It will have all the websites the students can go and get some resources. So I know for science, a very, very good website is Free Science, which the kids really know already. For maths, is Higgity Maths. They're very good. They're ex-teachers themselves, and they go through the whole curriculum. So that will be done in helping prepare. Again, it's finding a good place to revise. I'm asking you as parents, coming up close to exams, I'm not saying give them leeway, but I know you have tools. I had to do certain things. I have to do the dishes, get up and look after my younger brothers and sisters when I was young. But there are times when you as a parent need to say, right, we need to give them time to also revise. Because I do know some of the year 11s that see me, they say they have to come into school a bit late because they've got to take their brothers and sisters in the morning. GCSE is really stressful. So it's times where they do need to have that sort of bit of time at home to revise. I'm also happy if there's any situation where it's a bit difficult at home to revise. If you came, and I do say to students, I'm always honest, if you came from a big family like me, 6, we didn't all have our own rooms. For those reasons, the school's happy to open late. If I just know in advance that, right, sorry, Miss Boyd, it's really difficult, they can't study, I am here quite often. I am here doing Saturday and Sunday, and it's year 13's come in. So if you just send me emails, say, look, Miss Boyd, it's very difficult at home to revise, I'm quite happy to say, right, I'm happy to let them stay at school, and it will be supervised. But if that's the case, the parents have to make arrangements for the students to go home, because I'm a bit skeptical. Coming October, it gets dark, and I would like my own child going home late at night time on their own. Once you're happy for that and you make the arrangement to pick them up, then we can also keep the school open. The school is open at weekends. So if you feel that there's a situation, you want them to come to study, sometimes teachers won't be here, but premises staff is here. So if there's a list of students I'm aware of, we will let them try and study at school, but that needs to be emailed to the heads of learning and myself. Sorry, right. Sitting exam and reducing exam nerves. It's easy. We as parents, we as teachers, we don't know how the students feel. It is not easy. So what we try to do from day one, when they start in year 7, they all got that habit of going into the exam hall where they actually sit in the same seat. So they've done it from year 7. So going to the exam hall and the sports hall, sitting at individual tables is not new to them. So the reason is to start it in year 7, so they get into the habit, right, in exam you have to come in quietly, then they sit, etc. If there's any reason that the school or the heads of learning are not aware of, if your child gets anxiety, doesn't like big rooms, you must email that to the heads of learning. Because what will happen, if for any reason there's got anxiety or any type of mental health that we're not aware of it, the exam officer, Ms. Klinger, will actually send that information to the exam board. Then the exam board will allow the school to make another arrangement in another room for students to sit. But you can't ask a school to say, right, my child doesn't want to be in an exam hall, I don't want he or she being in an exam hall, because it is illegal if you haven't got permission from an exam board, not your school exam officer. What's happened in the past, subject teachers have allowed kids, if they're not happy in the classroom, they say, right, go and sit with your head of learning and do the exam. In a real GCSE, it wouldn't happen. We are not allowed to do that. Yeah, an inspector will come to school, have a list of names, they will count those individuals. If there's something school's not aware of, you need to email that to head of learning and the exam officer. Ms. Klinger will send off to the exam board special consideration. So that means when your son or daughter does any GCSE, if there's special consideration, exam board is aware of it, he or she does not have to sit in the exam hall, they will sit in a smaller room. But that have to get permission from the exam board first. So if something we're not aware of, please make sure you do inform the school. And I do apologise because sometimes teachers do feel and they care for the students, and what they do, they take them out of the exam hall, they let them sit in the, by their offices. Then when the students come to sit GCSE, we can't do that. And the reason I'm saying I'm responsible with Ms. Klinger for the exam hall, and I have to sit there saying to them, I'm really sorry, we can't do that because your exam paper will be void. So if there's any reason that we're not aware of that, please make sure. Honestly, I've been here years. There's no child that I've known who's never turned up to sit in the exam. They do get stressed. You have a lot of support here in the school. So during year 11 period, we have mentors. The school is also looking at investing in external people like psychologists, because we are aware that as a year group, they've been under lockdown. So we are looking at, let's say, how the students cope with their first mock. If it's something that is really quite stressful for the students and also the parents, we're trying to look at getting psychologists in that will work with the students from now to their exam. So if there's anything that I'm not aware of, please just do not hesitate to email me. Now, a lot of you I do know when I used to be head of lower school. So when I was head of lower school, I was also head of upper school. So I've had a few emails from parents already and who sort of give me some idea. So if there's any way that we can help, please let us know to reduce exam stress. The students are used of being in the exam hall. There are sometimes, let's say they do get nervous. Please do not worry, because what will happen is if it's an actual official GCSE exam, they will be allowed to come out of the exam hall, and it's usually myself who's always in there. I will take them out. They will write an exam on the table because it's allowed. I left the room with so-and-so at 10:10. so that way they'll still get their extra time to come back. So there's someone who's just anxious, we're allowed to take them out. It has to be a certain individual. They're not allowed to go wander around the school, but they'll just go outside by the sports hall to calm themselves down. Then they'll be allowed to come back in to the exam. So just please rest assured that it is a time where they are going to be nervous. So they will get support from school and also support from yourself. Now, how can parents help? I'm going to say as a parent, God, it's your worst nightmare for GCSE and A-level. And I always like to be honest, it isn't easy because it's going to be a time when your child may never, ever, ever be routine your whole entire life. But the first time where they're going to say, I'm not doing it, and walk off. You as a parent have to keep your calm no matter what, because sometimes if you don't keep your calm, the worst nightmare, you're saying that I'm not sitting my GCSE, I don't care, and the kid walk off. It does happen. So it isn't easy being a parent, and I will say that because I'm a parent myself and I've been here many years. I've gone to quite a few houses where I'm having to beg and persuade the kids to actually come in. So this is a time that is going to be hard for you. If for any reason it's difficult at home, they're not listening, please just contact the school as well, so we can also support. It's also time to take with a pinch of salt sometime. If they're sort of, close their door, don't want you in their room, sometimes take a pinch of salt. And what I've learned to do as a parent, if it's at that case, well, you just take a bit of breathing space, you try and do some fun things with them, then get them back into a routine. So what is very difficult, please don't start telling them in April. Right, pick up, you've got GCSEs. Start trying to get in some kind of organisation now where that they have, right, this is what's going to happen. I'm here to support you. So the best way to do that is try and make sure they get support, and it's not always going to work. And I'll be honest, there are some times that it doesn't work. They don't listen because they're stressed. It's not because they don't love us or you, it's because they're really stressed. And GCSE and A-level isn't easy. Okay, so this is a time where we need to help and support. So I've got here, help your child manage their time, supporting your child when tackling their homework. So if it's something that you might know, also there, sit there and try and support and help. Okay, helping your child prepare for the revision and tests. So sometimes you might know there's other things you might want to go out as a family, but maybe your son and daughter needs help on that particular day. Maybe try and sort of reschedule or organise on that particular day. Okay, I think we have gone through dates. I think we are ready for the next presenter. I know there's questions. Please, I will ask the parents at the end who are in school if there's any questions, and I'm happy to answer them after the last presentation.
Hello, hopefully you can hear me. Welcome, my name's Steve Beckles-Abussier. Thank you very much for that information. It was very, very important. I think I was working with the students today, and it was a great experience. And one of the things I want to share with you, a program really looking at how we look at ourselves, how we look at belief systems, also how we look at growth mindset and revision techniques, which I'm going to be sharing with you. So I'd like to go ahead. What I often aim to do is to look at the aims. And as I stated earlier, it's all well and good having those revision techniques, but if you haven't got the belief that you're going to do well in that particular subject, there's always going to be a challenge. So what I try to do is to get them to look at their beliefs and what they believe in themselves. So to get the show going, basically I aim to get them looking at things differently, because when that happens, a subject, for example, like maths, which they're finding difficult, if they can change the way they're looking at maths, what happens, hopefully, they're able to come up with solutions because they're not looking at it from that one dimension. So what I did is I showed them this particular picture. Now, you might have seen this picture before, but what I often do is I ask students to tell me what they see. Now, ordinarily, they would just see the tiger. Now, I love working in metaphors and pictures because it helps young people, especially young people, because young people are very visual. And you might have seen it, you might not have seen it, but there is actually an additional face within the picture. And there's the face. Now, the whole idea of this is to get them to realize that tiger might represent English, for example. OK, and they're saying, sir, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. It's a real struggle. I don't know what to do. Now, I then say to them, look, if you can change the way you're looking at this, everything is going to change. I mean, your sons and daughters now, at this point, really, they are just at that, hopefully, that kind of finishing point, getting ready for those exams. So new techniques that they've never heard before is unlikely, but what they need to be able to do is change the way they perceive what they see. So now, as you can see the face. And a lot of the students got the idea, and this is what I was saying to them, is that when they change the way they look at something, the thing they look at changes. Now, I don't know how much your sons and daughters are revising in certain particular ways, but I often read books without physically opening them. And one of the things I talk about is audiobooks. Now, I do believe in the power of opening a book and reading and the content of a book. But one I think is very important as well, your sons and daughters are listening to music 24/7. And I said to a lot of the students, how much are you actually listening to audiobooks covering maybe maths, English, science? And I had one student that asked me and said, I've never thought of doing that. And I said, this is exactly what I'm saying, is when you change the way you look at something, the thing you look at changes. All of a sudden, you're doing something you enjoy, which is listening to music, but perhaps you'll put aside maybe 20% of that time to listen to an audiobook, which is covering science or covering maths. It's all about kind of rejigging, making it easier for them to understand. The second thing I asked them to do is have an open mind. So often students go in with a pattern of, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. Now, I'm not going to say that doesn't work, but I think in life, it's about looking beyond. So this is an example I asked one of the students to do, and I asked them to find the 3 faces. Now, that's often quite easy, and I'm sure you're sitting here thinking, that's easy. There's 3 faces. I can see them here. 1, 2, and 3. Now, that's very straightforward. But I'm sure you're now looking and saying, well, hold on a minute. There's more than 3. And if you continue looking, you'll realize there's more. And the idea of this exercise, again, as I stated earlier, was to get them to start looking at things differently. Now, you've met my expectations because I said just look for 3. But the point I was making with the students today is in life, often you've got to look beyond what you're told you can achieve. And I think when that happens, you then exceed expectations. So don't go in saying, right, I'm going to do this and that's enough. Why not do more? Why not look into doing things in a slightly different way so you learn more? One of the things I said as well is not to let other people's beliefs become your reality. Now, that's often quite a case, isn't it? Because it's the group that you keep, the circle you often keep, that determines your success. I say that so many times. So I asked them to start thinking about what are you actually trying to achieve, and why not try to achieve more? Because often when you just try to hit just enough, there's a strong possibility you might fall slightly under. So why not try and aim above it? This picture is very important, and you might have seen it before, but I think it was very symbolic of the message I was trying to deliver to them today. One of the questions I posed, it's a very important question, is why the horse doesn't move. Now, it's quite obvious the horse is tied to a chair, but the chair's plastic. The chair only weighs 2 or 3 pounds. The chair is not heavy. Why doesn't it move? And one of the reasons I often say to students is that we're often conditioned to believe we can only do so much. I think at this stage, like I stated earlier, there's loads of techniques out there, but at this stage in year 11, I would have thought they've got a lot in their heads and they just need to apply what works for them. But it's about letting go of this kind of what's holding you back, because it's all in your head. Now, this is important because a lot of the students began to say, well, I'm no good at maths. I never have been. How many times have you heard your son and daughter say that? I never have been. Your formative years are between 1 and 8, and I think this is where a lot of our beliefs and values all come from, but they have to be challenged. Student I was working with, because I'm a speaker myself, and I came across a student that would often say to me that he couldn't achieve certain things. You've probably heard this before. I can't understand maths. I've never understood science, and I've always been a bit different. Now, this is what this particular student was saying to me. But after one of the sessions I delivered, he said to me, Steve, I really understand now because it's about the blue chair. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you know, that session you delivered, you were talking about how I've got these beliefs and how they were fixed in my formative years. I think this is what's holding me back. And I think I keep referring back to those formative years of me not being able to maths, not being able to do science, being shy, being a bit different. So therefore, I coined a term and I called it the blue chair syndrome. And if your sons and daughters start talking about how they can't do something, I often say, stop them and say, you know what, this is the blue chair syndrome. And if they've not heard about it, explain to them how this chair is there holding this horse who weighs half a ton that can move, but it doesn't. And what I'm trying to say is that a lot of these things that are holding students back are in their heads, and they are beliefs as well. The final thing I asked them to do was to talk about making a commitment. And Miss was great about all the techniques that the students can do and what needs to be done. But do you know what? It's about applying it. And if you don't make a commitment, it doesn't mean anything. So I love posing this question. There are 3 frogs sitting on a log and one decided to jump off. How many were left on the log? That might seem an obvious answer. You must be thinking Steve's going insane here. That's blatantly obvious. It's obviously 2, but that's not the case. And really, to cut to the chase, what I explained to them is that a decision is not an action. And I give you all of these techniques, but the reality is that if you don't take action, nothing is going to happen. So the reality is, if there's 3 frogs sitting on a log and one decides to jump off, there's still going to be 3 there, because a decision is not an action. So with the students I spoke to today, I said, guys, you have to take action with some of the stuff I've spoken about, not just I've spoken about, what your parents have spoken about, what the school's spoken about, because otherwise nothing's going to happen. It reminds me of that quote: the best thing to do is the right thing, the next thing to do is the wrong thing, but the worst thing to do is nothing at all. So taking action really was the start of when I was delivering this particular session. So as you can see, it's getting them to look at things differently, having an open mind, and getting them to make a commitment. Now, if you can get that in your sons and daughters, you've got a good chance. And that's really what I was trying to get them in that mindset before I really got going on the session. So I gave them a number of quotes to look at, and I think quotes are very powerful. Why? Because often they say so much in so few words. A problem only becomes a problem when they're not addressed as concerns. And I said to the group, many of you in this classroom have concerns and you've not said anything. We're now in September. When I used to teach, one of the things that would really annoy me, and I think Miss spoke about it, is when a student comes up to you just before Christmas and says, oh, sir, I'm not sure about XYZ, or I don't know. And I'd say, why didn't you come to me earlier? Because when it was a concern, I could have done something about it. But as you leave it, it becomes a problem. So I asked them to write that quote down. The second quote I asked them to write down, this is so important. If you have a problem that can be cured by action, you don't have a problem. It's all in your mind. Now, the amount of students I'm talking to that I've said, do you understand physics? And they say, or science, for example, and they'll say no. Have you spoken to the teacher? No. So what are you going to do about it? Oh, I'm not sure. It's like, you have to take action. I think I heard Miss talk about, the responsibility is with the teachers as well as with the students. But your sons and daughters have to really get to the stage to say, I have a problem and I want to do something about it. Take some action. Okay. So as you can see, a lot of these things are things that they can do themselves. Now, in this particular session, I spoke about mindsets, fixed and growth mindsets. Don't know how familiar you are with them, but your mindset is a set of beliefs that shape how you sense the world and yourself. This is probably developed in your formative years between 1 and 8, and that's really when you've learned about how things are, what a house is, what a car is, what your name is, your alphabet, how to count to 10, all of these things you've gathered in your formative years. It influences how we think, feel, behave in any given situation. Can you see how important this particular module is? Because for your sons and daughters to have a belief that they can't achieve in maths, they can't achieve in English, they can't achieve in art, it will have an effect on what actually happens as an action. So moving forward, we looked at mindset. Okay. Now, we obviously spoke about this. You've seen this already, but this is another mindset, isn't it? And I come across this quite a lot. And you can see there's a cat there. It clearly can leave, get out, but it doesn't. Why? Because it believes it's held in place. I think there are so many students that believe I can't do anything more than this. This is as much I can do. There's no point me asking anything about maths because I'm not going to learn anything more about it. That is a fixed mindset. Another thing I want to talk about is a little briefly on my father. My father hates using these self-service machines. Now, I don't know how many people in the hall and also listening are in the same situation, but my dad doesn't like to use them. Why? Because he says they don't work, bless him. But do you know what it is? It's my dad's fixed mindset. It's not a negative thing. So let's get this clear now. A fixed mindset isn't a negative person. It's a person that's quite happy where they are. But as you know as well as I do, things are changing so much in the world that if you stay fixed, what happens is you get left behind. I read somewhere the only thing constant in life is change. So you can see how important mindset was to cover this with your sons and daughters today. Fixed mindset. I mean, I love this picture of the cement, but that's exactly what it is. And you can see the words here. Don't know, can't do, won't try. Fixed mindset. Refer to my dad again. he doesn't know how to use them. He's not going to try. He can't do it. He's going to leave it as it is. He's going to go and see it served by the lady at the checkout. Okay, a fixed mindset. Growth mindset, well, you can well imagine it's the opposite, isn't it? It's opening to possibility. It's saying, well, if this doesn't work, I'm going to try something else. You can see how relevant this is to your sons and daughters at this stage. Because if something is not working, they have to take action. As Miss said earlier, speak to the teacher about it, find different revision techniques, speak to friends about it, and hopefully these workshops are going to help them as well. It's all about looking for a reason to overcome the challenges you are presently experiencing. So Dr. Carol Dweck, those that are familiar with fixed and growth mindset, she said a fixed mindset are people who believe their basic qualities are like their intelligence or talent are simply fixed traits. Okay, so in other words, this is what I know. I've always been good at maths. I'm not going to try English because this is what I'm good at and I can't do anything else with it. That is what I'm good at. I'm good at maths. That's it. Okay, fixed mindset. As you can imagine, growth mindset, people believe that their basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Now, I'd like to believe that we all have a fixed mindset, but I think you'll agree to a certain point that we do adopt a fixed mindset at times because we are human beings generally don't like change. So having things fixed is not unusual, is it? To know that it goes a certain way, and that's what's that saying? If it isn't broken, don't try and fix it. Leave it alone. But I don't always believe in that. I believe that there's a problem that needs to be addressed. So let's have a look at what we looked at. I love this quote. You know what you know. All right. I know I can ride a bike. Guys, you've not seen me, but I can. Not very well, but I can ride a bike. I know what I don't know. Okay, so guys that are going on holiday, obviously now the zones and the green or whatever, and you're on a plane, you're going to Spain, you see me in a cockpit. If I was you, I'd get off because I don't know how to fly a plane. I might give it a try, but I don't know. So that is something I know at this moment I can't do. All right, I know I can't do this, but this is where we all need to be looking at. Is that you don't know what you don't know. I don't know if that makes sense, but you don't know what you don't know. And when I was talking to your sons and daughters today, I got them thinking, rather than saying, oh, I can't do it this way, oh, this doesn't make sense. It's about saying to them, do you know what? You don't know what you don't know. I think it applies to all of us to a certain point, doesn't it? Get into that mindset to say, do you know what? I'm going to give this a try. I am going to try this. And if it doesn't work, I'll try another way. There's a growth mindset. So can you see how large that area is of what you not knowing what you don't know? I think it's this amazing area for us to kind of investigate and grow. Now, what's important is our beliefs. Now, obviously, our beliefs are really the foundation of our mindset. So I'm just going to give a little example. Now, clearly, I probably won't be able to hear you, but as you'll see them, I know you're going to come up with the answers, but let's just go for them very quickly. Let's go away. Right. OK, you'll probably see that. And naturally, you would say YouTube. OK, no doubt you'll look at that. And I'm sure you're going to say Instagram. And I can continue with these. I don't need to say anything because as these come up, I'm sure you're kind of mumbling to yourselves, or you think, oh, I know that one. And there's a reason why you know this, isn't there? Yeah, there's a reason. Why? Because you've seen them go compare. I can hear people saying, you've seen them over and over again. And I always say to people that success leaves tracks. Can you see? All these advertisers know exactly what they're doing, because as you're watching them, I'm sure you're calling them out in your head. What I want you to realize, and I said this to the students today, and I stated this earlier, is that success leaves tracks. If you see something enough times, it becomes true. Now, I studied history, and Joseph Goebbels, a propaganda Nazi minister of 1939 to 1945, used to say horrible things about people who were not Aryans, but said it over and over and over again until it became the truth. I said to these guys, your sons and daughters, that advertisers realize that if they can show you something over and over again, it will drop into your subconscious. And I said to the students, why don't you adopt that approach? Don't reinvent the wheel. How about being able to see what you need to learn on a regular basis? And this is what I'm going to explain to you. But one of the things I'm finding with students, and I'll come around to it, is that they're often distracted. Now, how much time does the average teenager spend on their phone a day, according to Common Sense Media Limited? It's about 7 hours, 22 minutes. Now, that, in my mind, is a long period of time. And what I said to the students, if you start monitoring your time, you become more aware of how much time, and I heard Miss talk about this earlier on, that you perhaps are using in an inappropriate way when you could be having it a more fixed way. So your sons and daughters were familiar with this, and I'm sure you are as well, but for Android and for iPhone, you have screen time. Now, I've got two sons, two big boys, they're 29 and 24, but I've got a little girl who's 8. But I've gone through this revision thing. And when the phones, and especially with my son, I used to ask him, I still do it now, put it on screen time. Okay, and then what we do after a couple of days, let's just see how long you're on the phone. Most of the times, your sons and daughters are very surprised about the amount of time they're actually spending on their phones. Yes, if it's to do with school, to do with work, it makes sense. But managing your time, and I heard Miss talk about this earlier on, is so important. So having that screen time sometimes can be a bit of a wake-up call for your sons and daughters. So those that haven't implemented it with your sons, have a little conversation. So guys, son, daughter, whatever, put it on screen time and let's have a little chat tomorrow and let's just see how much time you actually are spending on your phone. It's a massive wake-up call because I think a lot of time can be lost just scrolling through phones and not really making your time worthwhile. Now, let's go back to what I was talking about earlier when we were talking about how you recognize all of those brands. Now, this is interesting, isn't it? Because when I showed a group of students this yesterday, actually, it was today, actually, I should say, they were saying that I said, you know, what they've got in common here, and they all said transport. And isn't it amazing, isn't it? Because now you're at a stage where you're being, I think, sold to in advertising in so many ways that you don't actually realize that there's advertising all around. So I try to make the point, as you are bombarded with advertising, why don't you turn this into a positive and how you can maybe improve your learning? And so the students, and one of the students says, well, how would you do that? And I said, well, this is how I'd like you to do it. Revision tip number 1. I love this one. Post it to pass it. Now, your sons and daughters might be using post-it notes at the moment anyway, but if they understand the importance of how when you see things over and over again, you learn them, how about putting it to benefit you? So rather than kind of being brainwashed by, you know, Coca-Cola, Boss and Kit Kat, realize that it works. So couple of students, I said to them, what I want you to start doing is putting post-it notes of things you need to learn around the house. And they might be doing this already anyway, but I'm talking about going to town on this. Yeah, have a bit of fun. Have these things that you need to remember around the area that you're in. Because remember, you are affected by the environment that you keep, and it makes a massive difference. So that was revision tip number 1. I also gave them another tip, which I absolutely love. Let's first of all just give you some facts about commercials. The average TV commercial is between 20 and 30 seconds long. All right. Why? Because they realize, well, first of all, they're very expensive, but they realize that our attention span is relatively short. So when you look at adverts like these, you realize they're very, very short. Now, your sons and daughters are in situations where a lot of them are revising for 2, 3, 4 hours non-stop. I spoke to a girl today and she said, it's just not going in, Steve. Is there any suggestion? And that's why I then came up with this. I said, a lot of people find things boring, especially if you're doing it and it's just not going in. I asked them to get a timer, all right, because realizing that if you break things down, it's easier to consume. It's just like food, isn't it? You know, if you're eating a plate of food, you don't eat all at the same time. You eat it in bits. So I asked them to get a time, and I'm a bit obsessed by orange. Some of your students might know a little bit about that. But I then asked them to set the timer for 30 minutes, right? Now, you might have heard this bit, all right, the 30-minute bit. However, after it goes off after 30 minutes, stop exactly what you're doing. Even if you're on a flow, stop what you're doing. And then set it for 10 minutes. When you have that break, I don't want you to go off and rest, and you might feel a little bit tired, but studies have proven if you go off and do something practical, maybe sort out the dishes downstairs in the kitchen, maybe just hoover up the front room. I mean, you should have seen the faces of some of the students. But when I explained to them that from sitting still for 30 minutes and then for 10 minutes, you get up and move, what happens is that you're getting that rest, even though you are doing something, but you're doing a different form of resting. So you have visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. At the moment, I'm delivering a visual presentation. Auditory is when I'm speaking, you can obviously hear me, but kinesthetic is when you get up and do. And this is very different. I'm sure you probably have not heard about this, but when you get up and do something after sitting still or trying to revise or reading a book or whatever, you'll find you'll get that energy back because you're doing exercise to a certain point because you are moving about. But at the same time, the mind is resting. You're not doing that same thing all the time. Now, one student said to me, 30 minutes is way too long. I said, fair enough. Take it down to 20 minutes and then rest for 5 minutes. But it's for you to start managing your time so you keep at that peak all the time. So many students that have hours and hours and hours to revise. Now, in my opinion, when you break that time up, not only do you get more work done, but the things you need to do around the house, you know, maybe it's just tidying your bedroom, gets done. There's a chemical called dopamine, and you get a dopamine rush when often you achieve something, no matter how small, and it makes you feel better. Companies run dopamine goals all the time. So they say, right, reach a goal and you get X amount or you get promoting. And what it helps to do is to continue that momentum. This is a great dopamine booster. Okay. The last one is listen and learn. And that's revision tip number 3. I touched on it earlier on. Give this a try with your sons and daughters. There's podcasts out there. You can go onto YouTube. You can record stuff, put them onto your phones. It's brilliant. Something I want to share with you. I hope you have heard about this. Not many students had heard about this, which was really surprising, but it's something called oversimplified. I haven't got a video to play, but oversimplified, simplify very, very complex topics, normally history, into about 7 to 8 minutes. It is hilarious, really, really good information. I played a few clips with the students today covering Hitler, and it was, I mean, you could hear a pin drop because they're cartoons. Your sons and daughters, 9 times out of 10, love the visuals, love the animated, and they're quite funny as well. Give them a try. Oversimplified. Okay. Here's just an example, guys. As you can see, this is American Civil War. Look, I typed oversimplified in a couple of days ago. Look what came up. There's so much out there, so much information there that I think can make a massive difference to your sons and daughters. Okay. Next thing is, I think it's important is YouTube. YouTube is so powerful. There are so many things and videos out there that you can access. I've put some stuff up myself, which I shared with them. It's called online learning. I have a plethora of motivational stuff mainly. So if your sons and daughters feel they need a bit of that motivation, it's always good. Motivational talks, music and stuff just to kind of get them going with tips and techniques. I've been a teacher for many years and I just wanted to share that with them as well. So all these things are very, very useful. Now, Miss did touch on Sean Donnelly, I believe, which he's the guy of free science lessons and stuff. Very good for them to tap into. Another source is Dr. Gray, or Mr. Gray, I should say. He covers maths on Instagram. Now, I asked them to raise your hands if anyone was on Instagram. I mean, all of the hands went up. So, you know, it's something they can get access to. Mr. Broth, really good. A British guy, does the whole English thing, AQA language, really, really interesting stuff. Hank Green, now he's very, very, this guy's amazing. Science, psychology is a real big thing for him, definitely for A levels. I think he's also does quite a bit around science and chemistry as well. Just these sources of information, I just think is very useful for your sons and daughters, because the whole idea, remember I said earlier, when you change the way you look at something, the thing you look at changes. It's now giving them greater access to YouTube, downloading things and getting them to kind of look outside the box and not kind of think that they're just stuck in doing one thing in one particular way. So here are the tips that I gave them. Okay. Very good for them to work with and getting them thinking outside the box. Yeah. Now, I went through the beliefs and gains. I'm going to briefly go through that. I just said to them that your belief determines what you gain in life. Now, if you don't believe you're going to do any well in physics, you won't. And I'll give an example. Very briefly, I was asked by a mum to do some work with this young man called Jake. He found school very difficult. He was in year 11. She asked me to contact him just to see if I could do some mentoring. I said, that's no problem. She gave me his number. As I rung him up, he picked the phone up. He said, hello. And I said, hi, my name's Steve, the speaker of the Orange Tie. The minute he heard my voice, he put the phone down. He did. But he texted me back to apologize because he said he didn't feel like talking to me. But really, it helped me with the first line, because your belief determines your attitude. And this is something I said to him. I said, listen, don't worry about it. You didn't want to talk to me. So you had an attitude about speaking to me and you put the phone down. Is there a time we can talk? And he said, well, yeah, anytime. So I said, well, how about Sunday at maybe 8:30. Is that any good? He said to me, Sunday, 8:30 is the worst day of the week. Why? Because he had school the next day. So I asked him to write this line down. Your attitude determines how you feel. So again, that whole feeling of Sunday and feeling down because his belief systems is that he didn't like school. Anyway, we met in the end. We went to a Costa Coffee. It was really good. But as I walked in, he said to me, Steve, I just want to explain one thing too. And I said, what's that? He said to me, I hate my maths teacher. I said, I beg your pardon. He said, I hate my maths teacher. And I said, no, you don't. And he said, Steve, I don't want to fall out of you here, but I just want to tell you something. I really do. I said, no, you don't. You hate maths. And he paused for a moment. He said, do you know what? You've got a point, because she used to teach PE and we've gotten so well. I said, do you like PE? He goes, I love it. I said, there you go. What you're doing, you're taking the subject and the teacher, putting the two together, and you're hating the teacher and the subject. Now, and when I asked for a show of hands today, the amount of students that were doing this, and a number of hands went up, and one girl even said to me at the end, she said, you know what? I am doing that. I said, don't personalize this. These teachers are trying to help you, especially now in this challenging times. Really, you need the teachers to help you out. Here was the next line. How you feel determines how you act. So ultimately, what happened, we managed to get things going, and I was really pleased he built up a momentum, because he realized that how he acted determined what he gains in life. Now, a couple of students said today they were going to laminate that and put that in their bedrooms, and I was really pleased about it, because it's all about shifting your beliefs. If you change your beliefs, your attitude will change. You'll feel differently about the subject. You'll act differently, and hopefully you'll get the grades you want. But it has to start with beliefs. Okay. What's very important is risks. And before I do the last section, I asked them whether they're prepared to take a risk, because changing is very risky, isn't it? It's kind of going into realms of doing things you don't normally do. So here's some lines I gave them. I said this: if you don't take risks, you can't grow. If you can't grow, you can't be your best. And if you can't be your best, you can't be happy. And ultimately, if you can't be happy, what else is there? Now, I could hear a pin drop when I explained this, because I said you have to be prepared to take risks. You've got to do things perhaps you're not used to doing in order to get the results you want. Yeah. And if that involves you really knuckling down and having to ask teacher questions that perhaps you feel embarrassed, yes, you might have to do it. You might have to take that risk. Okay. So finally, guys, I just want to go through the recall and review. I think this might be quite useful, because the whole idea was getting them to recall over the lessons they're going to be learning and review the information as well. Now, they have booklets, which I had today, that they can go over. So let's just get going very quickly. Recall is to withdraw or retract. Okay. The greatest thing for me, I'm showing my age here, was total recall. So that's the way I could try to remember it. But remembering is about saying, well, what did we cover in the lessons? Now, what did we cover in lessons? Yeah, what were the things we covered? And it's about being able to recall that. Yeah, when you do that, that's when things change, because then you're able to review. Review is to survey, look broadly over. Now, I don't know if anyone's been to the London Eye before, but it's a little bit like that metaphor. It's like being at the very top and like looking over the whole plan. Yeah, is to say, how are things going? Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of the two, just so you have a greater idea. So as you can see here, you're asking the question, what am I going to go over and what have I learned next Saturday or at the weekend? You know, so it's now Friday and you're going to say, right, what am I going to go over on Saturday and Sunday as a general? Okay, so let's get going. First one is to recall. Here's the recall clock here. These are the 5 elements I think are very important. Okay, if you really want to understand something you've done, the first thing you have to do is to plan. All right, now plan what are you going to focus on. Yeah, what are you going to focus on? You've got a lot of stuff you need to do at GCSEs. You want to do well, but what are you going to focus on today? If you haven't got a, what's that saying? If you haven't got a plan, you're planning to fail. You know, I mean, it's so clear that if you're not kind of planning something, a structure of where you're going, you're going to get lost. All right, so that's the first thing. What are you going to focus on? And that can take 5 minutes, literally. Yeah, so what I'm going to do, right, I'm going to do maths today and I'm going to cover this in the morning. All right, that really should take 5 minutes. Okay, next thing is to understand and condense the information that you've learned in the week. This is so important, because the whole idea is for you to be able to grasp that information and get it to make sense to you. Okay, so condensing it. Class notes. Are they making notes? Are you making notes? yeah, in the class so you can access it. Yeah. Theme, main idea, details. Are you pulling out the needed information so you've got it at the side so you can actually reference it and you can know exactly what has been taken? Now, this is so important because if you haven't taken good notes, it's very difficult to understand it and condense it, because if you haven't understood it, how are you going to condense it? Yeah, so it's so important you do that. All right. That should take 20 to 25 minutes. So let's say we've decided we're going to focus on English. We're going to spend 20 to 25 minutes looking at the class notes and looking at the theme, the main idea and the details. Okay, so we're looking at that subject of English, for example. Okay, moving on. Mindfulness break. Now, that sounds a bit fluffy, but I think it's so important that we are, and students are able to plan that point where they can just exhale. And that doesn't mean sit in front of the TV. It could be similar I spoke about earlier, maybe just washing the plates or just hoovering up. That again, that could be quite therapeutic. Or maybe they just need to chill. They just need to exhale. I read somewhere most of us are going through life inhaling. So exhaling. Give them that time. That time could be 30 seconds, just closing your eyes. Listen to everything and everything you hear and breathe in for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds. Yes, it's along the lines of maybe yoga, a bit of mindfulness. I don't know if any of your sons and daughters do this, but I think it's important for all of us just to have that break in our lives, because many of us are just rushing, and there isn't that break at all. Okay. Now that I put 2 minutes, but it could go up to maybe 5 or even 10 minutes. Okay. Next thing is, guys, is to memorize the stuff that you've understood and condensed. How do we do that? AMAPs. Yeah, so we're looking at themes, main ideas, details, what makes up the story, how is the story, what do you understand about the story. We've seen flashcards. I'm sure your sons and daughters have had experience about those, and that basically is condensed information on a card, so you could just go through it, just flick through them, and so you've got that idea of in your head and you just keep refreshing it. Remember, average TV commercials about 20 to 30 seconds long for a reason, so keep it short and punchy. You've seen this technique I've spoken about already, so maybe putting things on the fridge door, etc. This is a great one a student showed me about a year ago. What she does is that when she goes to the bathroom, she's got laminated all of the little formulas she needs to remember. And I said, how does that work then? She goes, well, I normally brush my teeth 2 or 3 times a day. In the bathroom, I just look at them. I don't try to remember them. I just look at them. And I said, surely, can you really learn that? She said, Steve, you've given me so many ideas that we pick up things just by seeing them through repetition. If I'm brushing my teeth 2, 3 times a day, why not just look at them, laminate them, look at, and these were formulas. For her, they were math formulas she was trying to remember. But she said, I wasn't trying to remember them. I made them all really colourful and I was just looking at them. Okay. She did that. That's a 15-20 minutes to memorize information. Then finally, guys, it was to review it. Reviewing is testing yourself. How much can you remember of those notes that you made? Yeah. Did the notes not make sense? Well, here you go. You've got to take action. Go back to school and say, sir, you know, that stuff I wrote down, I'm trying to kind of memorize it and review it, but I don't think I've written it down right. Is there something you can do to help me? Reflecting yourself. How much have I learned? How much I need to do? You know, it's so important. This is where you guys come in. Asking others, and it is about relationships. I do accept that, but if you can have that relationship where you say to look, just try to teach me what you've learned. I read that somewhere, that if you can teach someone something you've learned, it means that you've learned it. I think it's a 5-year-old, that's it. Teach a 5-year-old something that you've learned and they can repeat it back to you, they've learned it. Now, you know, I know a lot of this stuff is very technical and maybe it's some of the stuff you think, well, I'm not sure I'll understand it, but give it a try and be there for them, because I think that's often what they need. Yeah. That's 15 minutes to review. All right, so that's the recall clock. Let's now have a quick look at the review clock. Now, remember, it's an overview, right? Looking broadly how things are going. What am I going to be doing next Saturday? Yeah, what am I going to be planning so I can get this work done? Okay, so the review clock works as follows. Review, what are we doing? You've seen the maps already, but it's actually looking at how am I going to break down all of the information that I've gained, and how and when am I going to be looking at this information? Will I have a maths day as being Sunday? Will I have a English day as being maybe Monday evening when I come in from school? When you've planned this, it's like a subconscious kind of prompter. And you make sure that you've done it. Why? Because you've timetabled it in. And that's one of the things I think is so important. Yeah. The next thing is to check. Let's explain what I mean by check. Past papers, classics. Yeah. If you can get hold of them, I'm sure your sons and daughters are starting, hopefully getting familiar with past papers, the type of questions they ask, and time yourself. It doesn't mean you do the whole paper, but you might want to do one question. I heard Miss saying earlier on that a lot of students are sitting in seats that they were going to possibly sit in their exams. Isn't that great? A great preparation, and mentally just kind of think to yourself, right, this is where I'm going to be when I do this. It can make a massive difference. So past papers, you can Google these. I'm sure you can download a number of these. It's just getting them in that mindset can make a massive difference. And it could take 15 minutes, really. I mean, it depends on the amount of time you could take, but that's enough time to gather the information and then decide what papers you're going to do. But this, again, makes you feel more comfortable because you're getting used to the routine and the rhythm of getting it done. So we've got review and to check. Next thing, which I think is so important, is to correct. Where did you go wrong? What was a mistake in some of the stuff you've made notes on? What didn't make sense? What needs correcting? This can take 15 minutes. It can take as long as it needs to take, but spend time looking at model answers, exam reports, and checking it for any mistakes. So you've done the exams. You maybe didn't get all of the questions right, but what did you do? What wrong? What did you find difficult? What was a challenge? That's when you go to school and say, Miss, I've done some past papers. This is what I found. Is there anything you can suggest? And as I said, they're there to help you. Correct any mistakes, rework any answers, make notes of any gaps in your knowledge. What is it you don't understand? What is it that every time you hear it kind of mentioned, you're like, oh, I can't do this, it's too difficult. Why is that? Can you see what I was saying earlier about the belief systems? Because if you've got a belief system that says I can't do maths, you're not going to go into detail to try to sort it out. So it is about shifting that beliefs a little bit and looking at things differently. Do you remember? When you change the way you look at something, the thing you look at will change. Next thing up, which I think is very important, is filling in the gaps. Now, I touched on it a little bit when it comes to correcting, but what have you missed? Is there anything you've missed? What is it you don't understand? It's like metaphorically raising the carpet and making sure you've got rid of all of the dirt. There's nothing left. What don't you understand? Create new, stronger memory cues. Create AMAPs, questions, flashcards we touched on earlier on. Any techniques on focusing on gaps or mistakes? What is it that you're struggling in? Why are you struggling with it? All of these things, if you really, really ham it down, what it does, it helps you to overcome the fear of exams, the fear of working, the fear of subjects, because what you're doing is you're pulling it apart. And I think that's the best way to tackle any fear, isn't it, when you can take it apart. This will ensure those areas are reviewed correctly and it sticks in your mind. Okay. And the last one is to reflect. And obviously reflection is very important. And I don't, again, think there's a time to it. As you can see, I've put these times in because I'm making it punchy in order for these to be achieved. But reflection, listen, you can reflect for half an hour, 2 hours. It's how you look at things and how they need to be done. So it is literally looking at what needs to be done over the next hour. What have you done? Looking at yourself. Can you look at yourself and say, I've done enough? I said this to the students today. Can you look in the mirror and say to yourself, I've done enough and I know I'm going to do well? If you haven't got that belief system, why haven't you? And what's a mistake? What needs to change? Okay, so that was the review clock and we covered that today. I finally finished off with talking about fears because a lot of students had fears. And I said, listen, there's a difference in having a fear and the fear having you. Okay, I gave them some steps to overcome fear, which I'm going to share with you now very quickly. Here we go. Accept fear as a fact. Listen, if you're nervous about your maths exam, that's natural. Just accept it. Don't try to sidestep it like it's not an issue. It is. Yeah, but don't let it be a force. Don't let it hold you. Don't let it paralyze you. How do you overcome that? Well, I gave them these 3 steps to overcome their fears. And by all means, make a note of these. First of all, is acknowledge it, embrace it, deal with it. Here's the stages. Here's a chair. It's in your way. Okay, it's a narrow corridor. You can't get past it. Okay, now acknowledge it's a fear. Some students will see the chair, turn around and walk the other way. And they'll say, do you know what? I don't need to go this way anyway. But what they're doing, they're avoiding the fear. The chair is stopping me, from getting from where I'd like to go. So once you accept that, you then have a reason in your mind to get it sorted out. So how are you going to do this? What do? You embrace it. I don't mean hug the chair, but what I mean is that accept that you need to work. You need to work out a way you can move it so you can pass and do the things you like to do. So in other words, you've got to have a plan of action. Okay. And once you've got that plan of action, it's about dealing with it. I'm going to pick up the chair and move it out of the way and do all the things I'd like to do. Can you see that chair's a metaphor for the fears of not just work, studying? It could be the fear of public speaking. It could be the fear of maybe saying how you really feel about somebody. So this is not just down to young people. This could be for adults as well. Acknowledge it. That's the first step. Many people are going around saying, I haven't got a problem, I'm fine with maths, it's okay. And it's not. There's a problem. Okay? You sidestep it. Embrace it. Yeah? I need to work out a way, so I move it so I can pass. That has to happen. Okay? And then you take action. Once you've done that, I think you're closer to not only overcoming your fears and challenges, but you're closer to you perhaps understanding maths a lot more. Why? Because you've lost the fear. You want a way to solve that problem. Here's my final lines I said with them. I said to them, on Monday, I walked down a street, I saw a deep hole, I fell in, I was lost. It's not my fault, it takes a long time to get out. On Tuesday, I walked down the street, I saw a deep hole, I pretended I didn't see it, I still fell in. It's not my fault, it takes a long time to get out. On Wednesday, I walked down the street, saw a deep hole, I see it, I still fall in. It's a habit, it's my own fault and I get out immediately. On Thursday, I walked down the street, I see a deep hole, I see it, I walk around it. But on Friday, I decided to walk down another street. And that was my parting message with the students today. It was getting them to realize that if it's not working, they have to walk down another street. They have to try something different. They have to take an approach that's going to work for them. And what you'll find is sometimes it can give you that added energy to solve the problem, which they thought was a problem, when really it was all in their mind. It was a great day. I really enjoyed it. But ultimately, I said to them, it's all up to them. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have enjoyed the presentations. By all means, if there are any questions, by all means, let me know, and I'm sure the school will get me in touch with me. But thank you again. I really have enjoyed it. Thanks so much indeed. Thank you.
I'm just going to ask, I know we've had a lot of messages from parents who are at home. If there's any questions people like to ask, myself and team will be here to answer. I am going to answer one online about the 6. I think there's a parent who asked about why do we want 6 and other students, other schools accept 5. We're not a grammar school, and we don't expect, if you were to apply to a grammar school, they expect you to get 7s, 8s or 9. Now, the reason why we are asking for 6 is 2 reasons. One, because of course it's quite a lot of competition. Some students might not get a 6. They are allowed to follow a slightly different pathway to transition. And the second reason, I don't think people sometimes, parents or staff is aware, I deal with a lot with universities at UCAS, etc. There's a child who's currently going to apply, wants to apply for university, and the same thing I said to the parent, that they do need to get certain grades in certain subjects to go to certain type of university. A lot of the Russell Group University are asking students to get a 6. So just certain individual wants to do certain career pathway. There's certain career pathway, there's no shortcut, no matter what. So this individual wants to do veterinary science, didn't get a 6 in maths, got a 4, refused to sit it, parents don't want him to sit it. Then it's come to say to me, Miss, I need to go to apply veterinary maths. He's applied, university said no. First thing university said, the school's made a mistake, they should have made you resat your exam. So it's not just only about us. Sometimes the student thinks I can make some magic, I can just write and university will take me. It doesn't work that way. I can't write a letter and tell a university, take this student. So again, we all have to be aware, universities are changing. In my days, I'm talking about years, I did O-levels, we didn't have to get these A's and A stars and these 9s. If I had my way, I would disagree with the government about you have to get all these grades to go to certain university. You do have to. So I don't want to give some of the students the wrong advice. If you got 5s and you decided you want to go to UCL, Imperial or Manchester, let's not use Oxford, Cambridge, they are not going to accept you. They do want higher grades. So the reason we ask for 6s is because majority of the good Russell Group University do want students to achieve that pathway. Some universities saying if students are not on that pathway, then A-level is maybe not the route. Some of them maybe need to do apprenticeship, and some of them may need to do other courses. Now, the reason why other schools are accepting students with a 5, every school in the country get funding. Some schools don't fill up their places. So if your school, your secondary school, you've got no one applying for your sixth form, you will have to close your sixth form down. So schools are just saying, right, let's just take you with a 5. I will assure you, the years I've taught A-levels for many years, it is really not easy. There's a big jump between GCSE and A-level, and I've seen some parents who have taught their kids before, and they will tell you it's not that easy. So I know some of the parents think, well, let my child come into A-level with a 5. There's a big jump between GCSE and A-level. University are requiring certain grades to go there. So that's the question to that. Other schools that are accepting 5s is because not many people apply there. They need to fill up their spaces, or the schools don't get funding. So I hope I've answered the question, Miss Harrison, to the parent online. Yeah. Is there any questions? If you just raise your hands. No, they can sit it here. Quite a lot of the students sit it here. So if your son and daughter doesn't want to go to do an A-level, wants to go to the apprenticeship, they can sit the exam in November here. So let's say they sit it in June, or if they don't want to sit in November, it's too soon, they can still sit it here. All they have to do is contact myself or Ms. Klingo. I have loads of students in the past who come back, and they can always, once they are still a member of Kingsdale School, even they're not a member, the school is a private centre. So they can sit it here. If they went in year 11 and they want to sit it, I'll be happy if you just let me know that they don't have to pay for it if it's within reasons. So the answer to that question, and it's a really good answer, so piece of advice to all parents. If your child does not get a reasonable grade in maths and English, you are going to be stuck. It's really important. I know they don't like the maths, they don't like the English, some of them maybe. A lot of companies are asking for a grade at least sometime a 5, if not a 4. It's really hard getting the jobs, and I always use me as an example. In my days, when not everyone went to university, not everyone did O-levels, so people just got a job straight away. A lot of places are asking kids to have a certain grade in English and maths, even if they don't want to do A-levels. So to start apprenticeship or GMVQ course, they have to pass maths and English. So yes, some places will accept a 4, others won't, but university won't accept a 4. Okay, they don't want to accept a 4. Some might do, let's say someone got all 9 and they get 4 in English. If English is not their first language, then that's different, because it would say that, right, they come from a foreign country, English is not their first language, but they've got all 8s in every other subject. So it's important that they pass maths and English. That's why even if students don't like maths and English, we only do the Saturday school 10 to 12 for maths and English, because if I ran music, they all like music. Rather than go to maths and English revision 10 to 12, they'll be in a music department. Okay. No. Yeah. No. So the after 10 to 12, and I go back to Miss. Oh, sorry. I have to repeat. Sorry. People at home got to repeat the questions. I've realised I can't. So for the maths and English, after 10 to 12, it's not compulsory. So other department 1 revision 12 onwards. Yes, so language, textiles, art. I know a lot of the students love going to art, and I know art is very stressful. They've got a lot of work to catch up, and I know they go in art and listen to their music and do their art. So others will be available. No to that.
With Saturday school, how it runs normally is we have the English maths in the morning, as said. It is really up to the student to speak to their classroom teacher, speak to the subject and ask, is this running this week? If it's not, when is it running? Some subjects will run it face-to-face on site because that's what they need to do. Some will run it from 1 o'clock on Teams and it'll be pre-recorded. So it's just about that dialogue with staff and students, really.
I do know the art department tend to run most every Saturday, so that one I can definitely 100% say that art and textile will run every Saturday. If I teach your son and daughter don't know, but I have for year 11 class, you get a letter from me, and I am going to invite those parents that I teach for science to come in. And it's been quite lucky with me because I didn't have to really force them. They were quite happy to do the revision, which wasn't compulsory. And we've agreed as a class when we'll do it after school. So we'll just try and prepare them for the exams. But you find most departments do run on Saturday, and it's not compulsory. So yes. Right, the question was, does the university accepts the grade with music that will correspond with GCSE? Yes, it does. Now, what some of the staff are not aware of, some of the students do 3A11, they do an EPQ, which is Extended Project Qualification. If you've done music from grade 5 upwards, but if you've got a grade 8 in music, that's the same thing as getting a grade A in maths for A levels. So that's really important that if they do that at GCSE, it's exactly the same grade as getting across. If they do an instrument and play it out of school, maybe the school might not aware of, if they ever apply to university, whether it's here or elsewhere, that must go on a UCAS point. It does give you a lot of UCAS point. So yes. Any more questions? Right, the end of year 10. Now, the reason why I think most people didn't say report for end of year 10 was due to, as well, because one of year 10's how the exam was sort of done. They were doing topic by topic. There were a lot of times when teachers were isolated and students were isolating. Some of the students didn't feel very happy with their results in year 10. So what will happen is they're going to do a mock now coming up to October. You can do, if you felt you really want to know how to do it in science and maths, you can just maybe send an email to the science and maths, but the school is looking to do that, do a report that wasn't sent out in the summer. So those report that wasn't sent in the summer, the school is looking to do the report again. So you could imagine if you give a report to lovely year 10s, they've all been under pandemic, they're all stressed, they get their report and it's not great. First thing they'll be going home in the summer holidays, oh my God, I'm failing, I've got GCSE. So a lot of it was not to panic the students and the parents, because the school is aware that during that academic year, it wasn't always easy. Some lessons were great, some wasn't great. Some of the students attended online, some didn't attend. So you will get one coming up just for the next October, and also parents even in this early, so you will get a full report.
Mrs. Boyd, can I give you a question, please?
Sorry?
Can I give you a question that someone's put on the chat? So
Yes.
They're a bit confused about the Saturday school stuff. It feels a little bit ad hoc. Can it be confirmed it will be definitely English and maths every week?
Right, it would definitely be English and maths every Saturday. What the school's going to do initially, there's quite a large number of kids in the year, so they're not going to say all year 11s have to come into school on Saturday. So what the maths and English department's been asked to do, those students that are underachieving first in maths and English, there doesn't make sense someone coming on a Saturday if they're getting 8 and 7 in their class. So the students will be selected to start off with in a Saturday school for maths and English. So those students who are underachieving in maths and English, it can also be those academic students. So it might be a child who's supposed to be getting a 9 in maths or whatever, but they're only working at current grade 5. They will be invited to come in. So there will be a letter with a list of students coming in on Saturday for maths and English.
Thank you.
Yes, you should get that before Saturday. And the first one is supposed to be this Saturday. So if not, please let me know. If some parents feel that any reason they feel their child is not achieving and the school hasn't picked them out, if you just let me know, then I can say, look, we feel that the parents feel that they should come in on a Saturday. Is there any more online, Miss?
One I've got is, how can we see the results from the end of year 10 mock exams?
Okay, I just answered that. So basically, the end of year 10 exam results is going to be shown to the parents in the next term, which will be November when they do their first mock. The reason they didn't show the end of year 10 exam, the school was aware during that academic year, some of the students was on lockdown, some of the lessons were online. So they didn't want to release exam results to the students during the holidays to sort of panic them that I'm not able, I failed. So as students are back in school on site, they will get the next exam results coming up sometime this term, November, after the current mock. Okay, so I hope that answered the question. Yes. Yes. Current year 11, they did citizenship in year 10. They can sit it again if they want in November. If you need to do that, you need to email Ms. Kling as soon as possible for the November exam, or they can sit it in. Right, what the school should do, not just email the students, and I will reassure that to Ms. Klinger, they need to email the parents, because the students don't always know. I had this issue last year when the current year 11, where they emailed the students and didn't email the parent. And some of the kids go, oh, I don't want to do it again. They didn't say anything to the parent. So I must reassure that, and I know that I'm a parent, I've got kids myself. I know my son would love to get away with anything as he can, and he knows what I'm like, always on. So I do apologise. The parents should have got emails as well as the students. So I'm going to ask Mr. Klinger to do that, to email the parents. If you want your son or daughter to sit citizenship or RE, they can sit it in November, or they can leave it to June. My advice, it's better to do it in November, because in June you're going to have all your other GCSEs. The grade boundary for November tends to be very low, because they're aware that the school has been on the pandemic. They've not been in school on school site. So the current year 11, who's going to be in year 12 now, quite a few of them sat it in November, and they got 8s, which is the actual exam they actually sat. So quite a number of them got 8s and 7s, and they worked very hard. So if you're thinking of doing that, please let Ms. Klinger know, because there is a deadline for entry for November. Yes. Yeah. Right, for current year 10, what an exam board can say, a school didn't have to sit the exam early. That's number one. So they do have to take into account what's currently happened. Because of that, I think if there were circumstances with year 10 or year 11, yeah. Yes, that's what the exam board is trying to do. What they're trying to do now, they're trying to reduce the topics that schools have to teach. Because there is no way, I teach science, and I teach chemistry A-level and biology A-level. I would say there's no way you expect this child in year 11 to learn what they did in 9, 10 and 11. So what exam board are trying to do to all schools in the country is give all of us a list, and they're supposed to reduce that topic. Yeah, so schools will also be complaining if they take too long. So to answer, no, they're not going to be tested in everything. Yeah. Right, is it yeah, is it on there now? If it's there, right. If you go on there, and if there's a grade there, then that means it's been updated. Yes. Yeah, if you can see a grade on there, then they would have updated in the end of year 10 exam. Okay. Yeah, that's why. Now you see, I'm glad a parent just say, well, I think they've just logged on and saw it's updated. It's not, I feel as a child, if I start getting those exam results just during my summer holidays, first thing the child's going to say and the parent's going to do is panic. So most sensible schools will not start telling a parent this is where your child is at, because it's not fair as well. And I know some of the kids would say to me, well, I never had a teacher. My teacher was isolating for a length of time. And we have to take that into account. And I'm feeling the pressure, because I did say to the kids in year 11, any problems, come and complain. Now I'm running. They're looking for me in the heads of learning every day at school, saying that, Miss, in year 10, we never had a teacher for 2 terms. So all that gets written down. So when it comes to grading, the exam board are clear with schools that they can give certain percentage based on the fact that that child never had a teacher. So there's something all schools would take that into account. So that's why we didn't want to send these results. Imagine as a young child in the summer holidays, oh, this is your grade. First thing you say, I failed. So we have told the students, I've told them not to be focused on what they've actually got. We need to do something about it now. Okay, any more questions?
I
Yes.
think we're full.
Yeah, sorry, I'll come and answer that one in a minute. Yeah. Yes. Right. The first 3 days is compulsory. The other 2 days, there will be textile, music, drama, all that will run on a Thursday and Friday. The second week, you find out that some departments do run, but most departments don't always run because the second week I've got year 13s in to do the A levels. So sometime, like for example, I won't ask my year 11s to come in the second week because I'll be teaching my A-level chemistry and biology. So most of the time, the art department, I know music department do run it first week because people might not be able to make it. So yes to that. That was right. That one I was just talking about when I was right. The question was, we used to have a guy that came to sell books, GCSE books, etc. I do remember you buying all those books at Key Stage 3. I'm going to make sure it's available for the parents' evening. So I will make sure the GCSE books are available for all subjects for parents to buy. I always advise it is really wise to do get them because the children lose their exercise books as well, and all their notes are in their exercise book. So they will be available during parents' evening, or they're available in a school shop. So they can just go to school shop and just buy them. So if you just top up their fob, they can actually purchase them in the school shop, which is open at lunchtime. Yeah. If you are a bit worried they might not buy them, I will make sure the books are available on parents' evening. There's a really good maths card, which I really advise you is really good to buy it. Is a Colbert Maths. So the students love their digital on their phone. Yeah. Those flashcards, so if you turn over them with the flashcard, it actually shows a video on their mobile phone. Then you click on a second bit, it has all the exam questions to that video. Then the third bit, it has all the solutions. So those are really, really good to get. If you buy it from the school, schools don't pay VAT, so it's much cheaper to buy them from the school. So it will be available for parents' evening, or it'll be available in the school shop. Most of you do know my email because some parents who know me well tend to email me on my GBD, or they just send it to year 11 team. So if you send an email to year 11 team, every single person in this room will be able to get the email. Okay. Some parents email the year 11 team. Some parents send to my school email, which is GBD, just small g, small bd @kingsdale.southwark, or just send to the year 11 team because we all of us in this room gets the email. Or you are free to go, or we will be here if anyone that wants to speak to any of us on their own or privately will be still available. Or please have a nice evening and thank you very much for coming. Hello.